Our next speaker is going to be Remy Malan, Chief Customer Officer from Sugar CRM. And his topic is going to be lessons learned in building a best-in-class customer success organization. Please welcome Remy.
Right, thank you. Very glad to be with you this afternoon. So I'm Remy Malan, the CCO at Sugar CRM. I'm actually the first CCO of Sugar. There was no one in the role before me. So I want to share with you some of my experiences around that. Also, just to help me calibrate, how many of you work at a company which, when the company was founded, not today, but when your company was founded, did not have a group or function called explicitly customer success? A lot of you. How many of you, on the other hand, work at a company where on day one you had a thing called customer success? Okay, a smaller group. And what I've discovered is are those of you who have one where you are younger companies?
Right now we're younger,
yeah. Younger, yeah. 4-year-old company has customer success built in. Sugar is 12 years old, so when Sugar was founded, Sugar didn't have a thing called customer success. Okay. Probably get the clicker going. Okay. So for those of you who are thinking about customer success as a function, and I'll apologize, this is an eye chart. You don't need to read the chart. I want to show you some colors on the chart, so just pay attention to colors and don't try and read any of it. This is a survey from Gartner, which Gartner went out and asked people, what do they care about in their relationship with vendors? And they listed a lot of different things. There were large groupings with lots of subcategories, so things like customer service and support, the product, the relationship. And if you look at the things that were top rated, right, there are things around service, support, communication, relationship. The interesting thing in this is like good pricing is right here. This is pricing, right? So it's very interesting. People aren't as sensitive to things like price. They aren't as sensitive to things like product features as you might think. In fact, you can go a long way with building a customer success function that in fact gives you a competitive advantage, even if in other categories you may not think you're well positioned, such as you may be more expensive than other people, or you may find that your product is different than other people, but you can actually be very, very competitive. So that's the main takeaway. So this will be in the handout, so I wanted to share this with you. It's really great ammunition for why do you need customer success as a function in the organization. So I'd like to share with you a little bit about how we built customer success at Sugar. So when I joined Sugar, there wasn't a customer success function. There wasn't a department called customer success. There weren't people running around saying, oh, I'm a customer success manager or a customer success executive. Those things didn't exist, right? So what happened is, in the process of trying to understand our customers better, we started to identify patterns in things that we needed to do. And that led us to sort of the first aha, which is we in our business need to understand the right ways to start engaging with our customers. And for us, this was actually precipitated by us changing our market. As Sugar got more mature, Sugar's customers started to become larger, more complex customers, and their needs were different than the customers Sugar had on day one. So in our universe, and this may differ for you as well, so I'll give you examples from my world, but what I want to share with you is the general patterns of these things, right? So in Sugar's world, these were sort of the 4 areas that were really important. One is support services. So Sugar does CRM. You know, our customers use our product to help them manage their sales organizations or help them manage their support organizations. Those are the primary 2 use cases. So being able to offer support services, product support or other things. But beyond that, being able to offer some form of relationship management. The reason for that is actually really important. In our business, larger customers typically change their CRM platform once every 8 to 12 years. Right? So maintaining a relationship is really important. We want to be there when they start thinking about their next generation. We also want to be there during those 8 to 12 years to help them and be that trusted vendor for them. Right? So that was something that in our business was really important. Implementation services also in our business is very important. We typically, a CRM system is sort of typically like a front office integration point. A lot of different business processes and systems will touch a CRM system, so it's not uncommon for when you're using a CRM system, data that you're looking at in the CRM system actually came from somewhere else, or you make some changes and data gets pushed to another system. So in our world, the ability to do and understand how to integrate our offering into a larger business context was really important. And then finally, and sort of coming back to that point about our customers only sort of touch these things every 8 to 12 years, we needed deep subject matter experts. We needed people who were really expert at this topic, because think about it, right? Imagine in your own company, someone did something 8 years ago. What are the odds that the exact person who did that thing 8 years ago is A, still at the company, or is actually still doing that function? Right? So having deep subject matter experts who can say, oh, you need help with architecture, great, we have someone who can help you. They did a global CRM project, right? That was really important in our business. Right? And then from that, we then said, okay, what do we do? This part was probably more mechanical. I won't belabor the details of this, which is to say, go out and figure out how you teach people, get them certified, and so forth. The key on this slide, though, was engagement model. Right? So one of the things that we discovered in our business was that we needed to think differently about our engagement model. When I joined Sugar, Sugar would have perceived itself as a product company, right? So SaaS products, software as a service, but we tended to think about product and features, price, competitive differentiation of features. As we got to know our customers better, we realized that we needed to have a different way to engage with them. Yes, they were interested in those topics, but they wanted people who understood what it took to build and deploy a CRM system. So we started to take a lot more focus around how customers engage with us, and in particular, started to look at their life cycle of using CRM, and started to sort of reflect ourselves back to our customers in the context of their experience. I'll touch this in a bit more in detail, but this was a big sort of aha, which is sort of to turn ourselves inside out as an organization and start thinking about our engagement model was designed to fit into, to pattern match, if you will, our customers' business and their business processes. It wasn't designed for Sugar, right? So a key thing here that we had to discover, right? We had to learn, well, what are those engagement models? And turns out, the implementation team is a slightly different one than people who are responsible for relationship and so on. But again, the pattern is, what are the engagement models, right? And then finally, build up your practice areas. And this, in our world, these are sort of the three big areas. So we just step back, you've started to identify what it means to have customer success in your organization, so offerings, if you will, or spaces in which you're going to offer customer success. You've started to train people, you've got them certified, you've started to identify the engagement model that you're going to use with your customers. And now, we're going to think about this from a customer perspective. So in our practice areas, these aren't Sugar's practice areas, these are typically our customers' view of us. So step one is, we're going to do a project because we need to implement the CRM system. It's been 8 or 12 years since we did this before, we're going to need a lot of help. That's sort of the first part. Just because you built it doesn't mean the end users are going to understand what you've done. So typically, CRM systems are part of a larger business transformation project that might be going on, such as, hey, we're going to streamline the way we do business, and we're going to make lots of changes, and groups will change, and the workflows and business rules will change. So CRM is often part of something bigger like that. So you can build it, but you then need to make sure users understand that. So the adoption success is a very big deal for our customers. And then finally, as a customer, I need to make sure I'm getting an ROI out of this. What's my ROI? Am I achieving the ROI I want? And then I've made this big investment in this. What other things can I attach or do so that I can actually perhaps get a better ROI around this thing that I've just gone and built? So in our world, this is how we've reflected sort of our customers' view of their journey And we use this internally as our way to organize ourselves. Right? And then finally, you can, once you have those pieces, you can start to differentiate. So things like, I heard in the previous session, questions about segmentation. Do I have customer success managers? And do they work differently when it's a small customer versus a big customer? And are there other kinds of things I can offer that add value? And which customers should I give those to or try and promote those to? There's a lot of things. I've put some representative examples here of things where you can sort of think about segmentation and differentiation of your customer success. I'll use the word offerings just as a way because of you're going to promote these to your customers. I would like to come back now and actually talk a little bit about something that I think is conceptually important, and this is a single view of the customer. When I became CCO at Sugar, Sugar was probably pretty typical of most companies that had been around for several years. There were already well-formed internal cultural elements. There was sales, there was a product team, there was marketing. These groups had well-defined boundaries, and organizationally, people were organized around those departments. So if you've worked at any larger or more mature company, no surprise, right? Exact same stuff. One of the things I wanted to do as CCO was start to break down some of the partitions internally and to say that what's really important to us is what our customers perceive of us. So this was a really big deal for me. And one of the things I said when I took the job, I said, I'm going to go pursue this as an agenda. I have the benefit, I do report to the CEO, so the CMO, the CFO, the VP of sales are all my peers. So it gives me a lot of latitude to go do things with them. So that actually does help. And I would say for those of you contemplating a customer success function where you want to do a lot of changes or would like to drive things, think about it being a C-level function so that you get the mandate and the executive sponsorship. So what we did was customer journey mapping. How many of you have a customer journey for yourself? How many of you do help your customers do journey maps of their own? Couple of folks. So we learned how to do customer journey mapping. So we did one for ourselves. Customer journey maps, by the way, are a great way to think inside out, right? Because the whole idea of a journey map is to put yourself in the mind of your customer and feel some empathy for them and how they experience you as a company. Do you create bureaucracy for them? Do you make them say, well, that's not my department, you have to call this other 800 number? Do you make it easy? So all of those things are important, and you can surface them in a customer journey map. So one of the things we did internally was build a customer journey map for ourselves to better understand our customers' touch points with us. And so we brought in an outside consultant who specializes in this and went through a fairly long exercise learning about ourselves from a customer perspective. Because we are a CRM vendor and a lot of our customers, by definition, our customers have use our product in a customer-facing way. We also then said, we want to be able to teach our customers how to do journey maps. So this was actually beneficial. So from a customer success function, one of the things we talk about and promote with our own customers is they should do their own journey maps of their customers' experience with them. Okay? And the other part of this was to recognize, for those of you who know the words up here, you will recognize these are maturity model words. I don't use that expression in here, but just to think about, when you think about customer success, or any function for that matter, you can typically break it down into different areas. Are the people trained? Do you have the right people? Do you have the right processes? And then do you have the right systems in place? So we use this also as a way to help assess ourselves and say, are we ready? Because some of the issues we faced were more like workflow issues or process issues. They weren't that the people were doing anything wrong per se. It's that we needed to change the way people worked together. And this was where we started. Back in the day, we had, like many large companies, we had the sales organization over here, and we had post-sales organization over here. So one of the first things we said is let's bring those together and let's build a process view that didn't stop at the close. right? And I've kept this. This is a legacy diagram we had several years ago. In our more modern incarnation of this, there's no sort of gap like this. It's one customer journey, which in our world looks like a figure eight for various reasons. But when we started, we said, hey, let's bring sales and post-sales together, and let's start educating everyone that from our customer's perspective, the close isn't, to the sales reps, the close is a hugely important deal, right? You're going to live and die by the close because that's what your comp plan and quota retirement are all about. But think about your customer for a moment. To the customer, the close is just the beginning. I finally get to use the product, or I'm going to go do a project and then I'm going to get to use it. So we said, you know what, let's not make the close be such a hugely important deal from a relationship perspective with our customers. And we used this diagram as a way to start to educate people, hey, the close is great, but there's more to life than the close. And guess what? By the time you get to the close, you should have already been planning some of your post-sales activity. The whole reason these things overlap like that was to say, hey, the close isn't like the beginning or the end. It's somewhere sort of in the middle of something. And then I'll leave you with a couple of slides and do questions. Governance. We talked a little bit about this, but organize around virtual teams. That's the way I organize internally when we do customer initiatives. I should be careful. To the greatest extent possible, I pay no attention to internal organizational boundaries. And I will go work on boundary issues if I find any, because I want to bring virtual teams together who are focused on customer outcomes. Right? That's really important, and we've been very successful at building a culture internally where it's not so much about, hey, which department are you in and am I allowed to work with you? It's much more around who is the customer and what are we trying to get done. Right? A very important cultural shift, in my view, to be successful with customer success in a broad way. And then finally, just a piece of advice would be learn change management. Internally, we use Carter's methodology. It aligned well with some other methodologies we had. But I would say my own experience has been, if you're building customer success and you're in a company which historically hasn't had customer success, you will find change management to be a very useful set of techniques and a useful way to think about what you need to do to get the organization to where you want it to be.